All right, good evening, everyone. Nice to see everybody. Welcome to our monthly meeting at the Woodworkers Guild. It's interesting out there. Yeah, congrats. Cheers to all of you making it. Good job. It's interesting out there, you know, we would expect it to be a little cooler football season and all, but summer doesn't want to let up, at least this week, but maybe next week is a little cooler. I want to start by welcoming those of you that are online. Thank you for joining us. Obviously, welcome to everyone here joining us, whether you're out there on YouTube or Facebook. I'm glad to have you. Do we have any first-time visitors here tonight? All right. Thank you guys for coming out. We love having visitors. How about new members? Anybody here that's a new member for the first time tonight? All right, even better. Fantastic. We're always looking out for new members. We love sharing what we have here. I think you guys would all attest. That's why you're here. So keep sharing the word, and we love getting new people that not only can they learn from us, but we can also learn from everyone who joins us. So makes us all stronger. So one thing I wanted to remind everyone, so we always have interactive, you can ask questions anytime, but if you are asking a question, someone will be around giving out microphones, because on the broadcast you can't be heard if you don't have the microphone, even if you have a loud voice. So and then when you have the microphone, keep it up to your mouth, because we have a lot of people that trail off and then it also can't be heard. So just a reminder, so I appreciate that. We typically go through this format. Most of you all know this, but we have our business meeting, which you all know I like to buzz through pretty fast. And then we have show and tell, which is, we've got some great show and tell stuff, so thank you all for bringing show and tell. That's many times is absolutely my favorite thing about these meetings. We get to see what people are working on, and we have a fantastic program after a break tonight. So that's let's go ahead and get rolling if everybody agrees. So going through the officers' reports, I don't have anything specific, although we have a ton of great things to talk about as we go through tonight. And we've already heard that our Vice President Ron Haw and our Secretary David Roth don't have anything special to report unless things have changed. Our treasurer, I don't believe, is here tonight. At least I haven't seen John, but we're still paying our bills. So, and we still want everyone to go out there and spread the word and get more membership, because more membership means our abilities to fund lots of fun things and continue to grow together. Member at large Craig Arnold has nothing special to report. Chuck Saunders, in charge of assets over there, the smiling gentleman in the green. He has plywood for sale. You see that some nice, I believe it's Baltic birch plywood already sanded. And if you need that for projects, go see Chuck. He also has table saw parts. Anything else, Chuck? Okay, very good. So communications and web, there's nothing to report, although we do really appreciate the communications team and keeping up the website. It's always nice to be able to refer people. We get a lot of questions throughout the weeks. Newsletter went out earlier this week. Great job on the newsletter. We appreciate Ron and his efforts. And Ron, do you have help this month, or you're the lone show this month? Steven did most of it, so great job on the newsletter. We're always looking for articles. I saw some great articles this month, so if you're working on something, you're on vacation, you see something really cool from us. I mean, it doesn't have to be woodworking. It could be something that's cool. We're all interested in what you all are interested in. So if you have something you want to write an article, please send it in. We'd love to have it. So Don Steele is our librarian. He always wants to remind us that we have books for sale and magazines for sale. Mostly magazines. Magazines go $0.25 a piece or 5 for $1, unless inflation has hit. Or if you want to give more, yes, that's always good to know too. Typically books are $1, so go check it out. You've heard me say before, but yeah, I used to really hunt for these magazines. Now, obviously, in our internet age, it's a little bit different time, but amazing material in those magazines that you've probably forgotten, and makes good bedside reading, or put it out in your shop. Use it for, wipe your nose, whatever. So I want to remind everybody of our social media accounts. So we do have a Facebook account. We have a Facebook page, and we also have a Facebook group. And the group is out there for good interaction. I think there's been a decent amount of interaction over the last few weeks. So check that out. There's always people asking questions, and nice to be a voice in the community to a degree. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube page, please do. You have many of all of our monthly meetings are out on YouTube, and our skill builders are on YouTube. Some of the old interviews, podcasts, there's lots of great stuff. So if you haven't checked out our page, please do, and subscribe and like the videos. We're up to 468 subscribers, so if you haven't joined, you might be the one that helps us kick us over 500, which I'm sure that turns into millions of dollars for the guild. Yeah, please check that out. Instagram, we have an Instagram page. If you're doing work and you put it on Instagram, please tag the guild. It's nice to get the word out. You never know when that person that sees that will be the next person that becomes an amazing asset to the guild, a great contributor, or somebody we can learn from. Let's see. There was also safety videos on YouTube. I wanted to put that. Chris, do you have any announcements from an AV or YouTube or anything involving events? I'm giving you a wide berth there.
Yeah. No, so on YouTube, like I said, make sure you go on and subscribe. For events coming up, this is our 40th anniversary year. So coming up on October 5th, we have a anniversary celebration here. It's going to carry over from First Friday on Friday night over to October 5th. There will be open shop tours and craft sale from noon to 2. At 2, Cal's going to be doing a skill builder. What are your skill builders, Cal? What's the subject?
So the skill builder this month, October 5th, will be on, I'm going to demonstrate line and berry inlay, which is an 18th century way of decorating furniture. You may have seen it in the newsletter. Come check it out, but it's a cool way to put decoration on your furniture.
Yep. So we got Cal's skill builder from 2 to 4, and then 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock is going to be social hour, continuing the craft sale. Betty Ray's Ice Cream is helping sponsor part of that. So we'll have ice cream and cake. We're also going to have several of our sponsors.
Yay, ice cream.
Sponsors here, talking to members and giving little info and demonstration on some of the sponsors stuff. Coming up in November, we have the hand tool event. The 8th and 9th are open for the public. The 7th is going to be guild member night, where we get free shipping on most items. There's a few big items that won't cover shipping. I'm waiting on confirmation on the final times for Thursday night, but that will be coming out soon. Later in November, the 23rd and 24th, we're doing Santa's Workshop again. Still in planning stages on that, so we are going to be needing some help. Check your emails, because we'll send out blasts looking for help for volunteers, but also we're going to be doing the craft sale similar to what we do for First Fridays. And then lastly is going to be the Christmas party in December.
So Chris, what are you going to be doing with your time over the next 4 months, man?
I'm going to put a hammock up here in the AV booth and just stay here.
I know that Chris will be more than happy to take a lot of help. It's going to take a lot of people to pull off these events, but all of these are just some of the best events we've had in a long time. So please come to those events and pitch in and help. Excited about all those. Catherine, is Catherine here to talk about First Friday? I don't think so. Well, Okay, well, moving on. Membership, we are up to 791 members, so fantastic. If you're not a member, please join. How many times have I said that tonight? Any other announcements, Jim or Carol, on membership? Come on up, Carol.
I got a couple of things we're going to be doing, actually. It's my cheat sheet. We're going to introduce gift certificates for everybody. So if you want to give a gift for a class or for a membership, those are going to be offered coming up pretty quick here. One of the other things that we've been talking about for a while is getting merchandise back together. And we are going to get that in the works real quickly. I put a binder together, and it's going to be in the office. So if you want to look and see what's going to be available, or if there's something specific that you're interested in that's not in here, please let me know. If anybody, I'm going to ask for help. If anybody knows schools, high schools, that have woodworking classes and know where those schools are, please reach out to me and let me know. We want to touch base with those schools and find out if those graduates that are turning 18 are looking for a new place to do woodwork. Okay? Terrific. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Carol. Carol's putting a lot of work along with many other people and getting the word out, and she's had tables at Rockler and Shooty and Woodcraft and just getting the word out for the event. Some of you may have seen them out there, so, and some of you may have helped out, so we appreciate that as well. So programs, we have a program. I'm very much looking forward to it. William Fehrenbach, is that relatively close, is gonna talk about his journey and Japanese joinery, minimalist woodworking, and I'll let him take care of that. So, great program tonight. Safety committee, Steve, do you have any announcements?
Thanks, Gail. Good evening. You know, I prepared something because I didn't want to let the flag drop. And now that I noticed all my predecessors, most of them don't have anything to say. So we'll try to make this fast. So good evening, everybody. Steve Hicks, if you're not familiar with me. Wanted to give you a quick update on safety-related activity. Two things to touch base on, and we seem to talk about one of these. I've talked about them in previous meetings, but just progress on production of new safety videos. We've determined that we, at least on the first go through, we want to develop about 5 new safety videos. So in the month of August, we completed filming and editing on 2 of those, one on saw stop table saws, and my thanks goes, I may have mentioned this before, but Marcel Bredemeyer was our talent who narrated that. She did a great job. And my thanks also to Bill Mantilla, who is our videographer and does all the editing, does a fantastic job. So, and then Ron Hall on the script and just his general support. We also completed one on the Festool Domino Joiner, power hand tool. Great piece of equipment, and so we wanted to make sure we had a video on that, and I was the actual talent on that, so that may be one you want to miss at some point. I certainly will. So but we've ceased activity or paused activity on those 2 projects because we're currently in the process of getting permission to use some footage from both SawStop and or Festool integrated into our video. So there's just some things that they talk about, especially with SawStop and the SawStop safety system. They just do a really good job of showing how that whole process works. So we just really can't replicate that or don't want to do that here in the shop. So we've actually have, probably about a minute or so of footage in SawStop video and then also the Festool video. So we're reaching out, making progress. It's a lengthy process, but we've gotten to the right people, and we're going through the process now of getting waivers or permissions so that we can use that without any kind of copyright infringement or anything like that. We do have a date scheduled tentatively for a third video shoot, that will be October 25th and or October 30th. The subject matter there will be general shop safety rules. We're updating that, new facility and all. Script is being prepared, and so we think that'll be a big project, but we're looking forward to that as well. Lastly, just a word on safety committee activity. Our next meeting will be scheduled for the tail end of October. We've been running those meetings about once every month, but we took a bit of a hiatus in September because we had so much activity going on. We wanted to give ourselves a little bit more time to get some stuff done so we could actually do some business at the next meeting. So proposed agenda items for that will include just an update at that point where we are, hopefully 3 videos in the can at that point, just an update on progress related to that and where we are with scripts on the other 2 that we have in process. We're going to look at a proposal for CPR and AED training targeted toward shop foremen initially. So we're trying to build that capability and kind of shore that up a little bit. So we'll be looking at that. If we get consensus, then we'll go on to the next step, which is actually scheduling dates and times, so stay tuned on that. And then lastly would be enhanced emergency response procedures. We're now in a new building. In particular, evacuation in case we have a fire. Hope we never have to use that, obviously. But more to the point probably would be severe weather, shelter in place, new location, and that's more relevant to this part of the country, so we're going to make sure that we kind of have that shored up as well. So I guess I would like to say, again, as always, thanks to the members of the Safety Committee for their participation. My thanks to Cal and the Leadership Committee. A lot of support coming from the Guild for Safety, which is really fantastic. And we really appreciate that very much. So with that, unless there's any other questions, back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. And again, we do appreciate the Safety Committee and Steve, all the work of all the members. We actually do, it's easy to say you care about safety, but then you actually have to put it in practice. I work in the construction industry, and we always say safety is the most important, but there's always ways that you can compromise that are not ultimately good for safety. So I appreciate that. We want everyone to go home, not only with all of their blood inside their body, but all their fingers intact, and go home. And we never want anyone to be hurt here at the Guild at all. And we know woodworking can be inherently dangerous, so it's very important that we always keep that in the forefront. Moving down, so Rough to Ready is run by John Sloss and a bunch of group of people, so there's classes available. So if you're interested in Rough to Ready is a way to get certified to use the shop if you're a new member. Sponsorship, Dwayne has nothing to report, but definitely check out our table. Megan, what do we have offering up there today?
The number of items has increased. We started out with 6, now we have 8, and 2 of them are from our very kind presenter. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, check out the table for raffle. We'll run that raffle in the break. Training, Rich, do you want to come and go over the upcoming training items?
So just real briefly, go talk about the skill builders that are coming up. As Cal mentioned, the October skill builder is going to be during our birthday celebration, and that is going to be on Line and Berry Inlay. The November skill builder is going to be by Craig, and he is going to do it on using the router table. So and some templates that you can use and some jigs you can use with the router table to make that more effective. And then for December, Chuck is going to do a skill builder on that new piece of equipment that we've got in the other room, the Martin sliding table. So those are the skill builders that are coming up. As far as classes, I've got a number of them that are in the works right now. Nothing that I'm quite ready to release yet. When I know about a class ahead of time, I try to let you know about that in the newsletter, so I recommend checking out the newsletter. I will let you know, here's a class that's going to be releasing on this date. When I don't know, like right now, or I'm not quite ready to tell you what's coming up, because we're still working out some of the kinks and details, all of our classes release on Tuesdays at 7. So check your emails at Tuesday at 7, have an alert on, and that's when they will come out. They won't come out any other day except for Tuesday at 7. So, and I'll have more for you in October.
Thank you, Rich. So skill builders, we've already talked about October. November the 2nd, we've got using the router table with our very own Craig Arnold. And then December 7th with Chuck using the Martin sliding table saw. So it should be very interesting. Excellent skills to learn. The last thing on our agenda, or getting close to the end, we talk about our SIGs, which is our special interest groups. We have 4 of those. So first is the hand tool SIG that meets the 4th Sunday of the month from 2 to 4, led by Rob Young and Wayne. The next one's on September 22nd. Anything special, Wayne? Bit and brace. So the old drill that you hand crank. I used that a lot growing up. The next one to talk about is the wood carver SIG, led by Jim Brock and Dan Rubidoux. It meets the 4th Tuesday of the month from 6 to 8. Typically, they say any carving you want to work on, bring it on. They can help you out. I don't know if there's anything specific, but power carving, traditional carving, folk carving, anything like that. The next meeting is September 24th, and that's at 6 o'clock p.m. The laser engravers, led by Curtis Alexander, is the 4th Wednesday of the month at 7. The next one is going to be September 25th, so that's a week from today. If you come on down, and you can also get trained to use the laser. Anything other than that, Curtis? So demonstration on engraving slate. That sounds cool. The next CNC SIG meeting is October 21st. That's led by Gary Melke and Ed Stewart. Is Ed here tonight? I haven't seen Ed or Gary, but come on out if you're interested in using the CNC. That's the 3rd Monday of the month at 6:30, so that next one would be October 21st. I think that's it for the agenda, and if you have a show and tell item, come on up and kind of get in the queue, and we will go forward and check out your projects. Kevin, are you going to be the MC for this tonight? I will. Awesome. Thank you.
My job tonight is to fill in for Mr. Bainey, who's over in Europe right now doing battlefield tour of World War II. So hopefully he survives again. So let's take a look and see. Are you up? Yeah. Okay.
Lined up here.
All right. Let's bring those stools up here and take a look at them.
So these are the, I got these plans off of the Rex Kruger site. And
Hold it up close.
it looked a little bit, it looked pretty simple, but as I got into it, not so much. They always look simple, and that's why I picked it, but it got into the angles and the horizontal angles, and three different legs, and each one of them has 2 angles each, which I use a brace bit for it to drill the holes, and made it out of 1 2x4, 8 foot long. Each one of them is 1 2x4, 8 foot long. And so the instructions are here, and it's pretty straightforward.
What did you finish it with?
Stain and poly. Put a coat of poly on it so that this particular buddy of mine said that the wood would soak up the stain, and so if you put in a little thin poly on it, it fills up the pores so that when you go stain it, it won't just soak in. So I'm taking the staining class next month. Appreciate it. I've been trying to get to that class, but it just happened to get offered on the days that I'm available. So looking forward to it. There's a few runny places on here if you look real close, but no, it's just part of the self-critical eye.
So when you got the 8-foot 2x4, did you go to a construction site that Cal was in charge of and steal it? Or did you go to the Home Depot or Lowe's?
I went to the
and-
Home
Okay,
Depot.
all right.
And if you ever make one of these, I suggest get the better quality 2x4. I didn't. I went the cheap mode because I wasn't too confident that I could pull it off. So I just bought the cheap ones, and I had to go back a couple of times I cut the hole at the wrong angle, so it kind of came down crooked, and so I kind of learned. There's, I think, 3 legs. 9 legs were needed, so.
So your high school algebra and geometry came into,
No, not at all. I just used one of those little angle things, and then I had a buddy look at the side, and I had the brace bit on. It was a real clown show. And he was looking at the brace bit while I was turning it, and then he would say, "No, move back," so I'd go, move a little forward, a little back, a little ways this way, and
Very
we
good.
finally got it 9 legs later, so.
all right. Any questions?
So you used the, you bought the, I'm right here. You bought the 2x4 that was like $2.45 versus the $2.80 one.
And I have no idea what the hell I was thinking, but I should have just bought the better grade of wood because I didn't have any confidence that it would turn out worth it.
What are you going to use these for?
I'm going to give them one to my Christmas presents, one to my son, one to my son-in-law. They got a garage with a bench, a workbench out there, and they basically don't have anything to sit on while they're hiding from their wife. So
The wedges, did you use a contrasting wood there?
yeah, I used a walnut shims. I made them on the band or the saw over there. But the drilling of the bit, using the brace bit, I did it at a buddy's shop because it was, like I said, a clown show. Because you never knew it was wrong until you got it all the way through and stuck that joint up together, and then you got all 3 legs, and then one of them is like all. So
I just have one question. What did you use to cut the tendons on the end of your legs and your stretchers?
chisel and a by hand. I didn't use a lathe, just used the chisel and sandpaper, I guess. So, and I'm a very new member. I'm like 2 years, so this never really did anything spectacular like some of these other guys do. So,
It's a good place to start.
yeah, something I thought was more simple, but it turned
Yeah.
out more complex. So,
Very good.
thank you.
Great project.
Okay, tell me about these boxes.
Well, they're shaker boxes. Was it John Wilson box maker? That's where I got the directions. And after you read those 10 times and then try it 40 times, you actually figure out how to do it. Everything that could go wrong did. From getting kiln-dried wood that would crack every time you tried to bend it, to trying cherry when I should have tried maple, which bends a little easier. Hitting the tack that last little time and cracking the swallowtails. It's very frustrating, but then once you get it right, it's very satisfying. I started off with this size here, the 321, and then after that, you're like, well, let me see if I can try a bigger one, and then it becomes addictive, and there you go. Also made the carrier. This is a kind of a medium size. I've made bigger ones and smaller ones. And then John Wilson had an article called Presentation Boxes. So once you get the hang of making the form and the shapers to make these, you can kind of make whatever shape you like. So I made those. I also do a little wood turning. I made some pens. And if anybody has a clever way to get the pen to go in there without rattling around, stop by. If it works, you can have a pen. That's pretty much it.
Very good. What did you finish these with?
It's Formby's wipe-on tongue oil. You need something that builds up a film rather than penetrates the wood, because the penetrating finish will just go through the box, and the inside of the box smells terrible. So you got to find something like a lacquer that'll build up on the outside.
All right, very good. And for the inside of your boxes, you just have that plain right now?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. No finish on the inside.
So would Hobby Lobby have foam scraps where you could cut to that, put it in there, and then present your pin with that?
Possibly. We'll see. You know, I can handle the wood. I can't figure out anything else. So we'll have to see how that
All right.
goes.
Any questions? Very good. Very good. Let's bring those up. This way, Jim, we can get a bird's eye view of what you've got going here.
Got it. Well, these are crude. They're Chris Schwartz style stick-built saw benches for the shop. And I knew I could rig the drill press with a tilted table and exactly duplicate the angle of drilling the hole and then reaming. But I decided, well, that's easy. So I did it all by eye, and I measured nothing. I did it all by eye. And so I just wanted to see how it would turn out. And it turned out good enough to use in the shop. So there you go. They're two different lengths, so I can stack them and they don't take up as much room in the shop. White oak legs on one, red oak on the other. What's that lumber store on Nolan Road? Yeah. I took every single straight piece of white oak and red oak, little, long things that they had. And I got lucky. I got 4 each. So I made a model first, and that's just coat hanger. And I knew what splay and rake I wanted, and then I just measured the included angle finally with a bevel gauge and transferred that to the legs. Just taped it to the bottom and then eyeballed the holes.
And what kind of wood do you have for the bench?
I think that's beech. Yeah, at Metro Hardware, I saw something I liked that was flat and straight, and I had them cut off a chunk. And there you go. And of course, it's Odie's oil. Yeah, this is the main reason.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's the main reason I brought it. That's it.
So your challenge was not measuring,
Yep,
doing it all by eye,
yep,
no plans.
nope. Nope, just did it.
Cal, is that the woodworking way? Very
Looks
nice.
like it did. Looks like. How'd you do the chamfers on your legs? Were those by hand or by table saw?
Oh, let's see. The first thing I did was I ran it through a joiner with the joiner table at 45 and flattened it some. And then I ran it through my planer to do the other side. And then I flipped it again. And I just kept going until I got it down to the narrowest one I had. Some of them, it took a lot of passes because they were pretty thick. And I started doing the tenons. These are tapered tenons. I started doing them with a draw knife. And then I decided I got 8 in oak to do. And I stuck them on the lathe and turned them down. And then I used a hand, the hand thing to get it right down to the nut, to the gnat's ass. And they're, yeah. Anyway, there it is.
So how'd you make them all level to sit flat?
Sawed them off.
And how did you figure that out?
Well, you just, it's rocking,
Yeah?
and then you mark the long ones, so you cut them off and they don't rock anymore.
That's the way to go.
That's the way you do it. But I put a level on the top and swung it around, and then I shimmed it up on the table to find out, which one's long and how long are they. And then I cut a little piece of wedge or whatever, and then taped a pencil to it, and then marked them all. So I was marking them all exactly the same, because they were about that much longer when I started. Well, they were all 2-footers, I think, 30 inches, and I didn't need that. I've got this much scrap off each one, so I don't know what I'm going to burn it. So,
Very good.
yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
No skill builder.
Skill's done.
Thank you so much.
My name is Russ Amos, if you guys don't know. I do a lot of multiple type projects. I just got through finishing 30 motorcycle trophies for a motorcycle club, and that was really rather interesting. Trouble is, they all got given away, so I don't have anything to show you. So they were basically coat racks with half of a rear sprocket from a motorcycle mounted in the back. So I had all those motorcycle sprockets were different size, so I had to make jigs to route out the back so the sprocket would fit. 3 pegs and 2 key hangers. The number sits proud, thanks to my wife's suggestion, and I thought, well, that looks like a good idea. But if you've never cut a motorcycle sprocket in half, you ought to try it sometime. And then you keep trying, and you keep trying, and you keep trying. They took about 15 minutes each for 15 sprockets cut in half for 30 halves. They're very hard, even the aluminum ones.
So you didn't have any pictures?
Up on
okay.
Up on there.
I'm not paying attention. I'm just looking.
Oh, another thing. I sandblasted the sprockets to get them cleaned up because they were all used. And after I got through sandblasting, I put them in my wife's, my dishwasher, because I'm the one that does the dishes. And trouble is, the steel ones came out a little brown after they came out of the dishwasher. So they're all, the first place was painted gold, the second place was painted silver, and the third place painted bronze. Any questions? Metal cutting bandsaw. And I had to drill holes in the sprockets to mount them. That was even worse. And countersink that hole. I went through a couple of countersinks doing it. Anything else?
Very nice. Thank you, Russ. Dave Roth, do you have more than one? Tell us about your project, Dave.
Okay, I took a class at Mark Adams School of Woodworking for veneering. So this project here is all veneer. It's 95% MDF and 5% solid maple. The solid maple's on the very tail ends. So what we did is we took maple and MDF with a biscuit, glued it together, and then we sanded it through the drums or the wide belt sander, and then we veneered it. The reason we did that is so when you make your cut, to do the concave and convex cuts, you're actually cutting solid wood. But on top of here is MDF. So we cut our next piece of MDF, concave and convex. You save your rectangle piece, and you use that as your clamp. So everything here has been veneered. We learned how to do concave and convex pieces. We learned different parquetry techniques. I think it's called nautical star. This fan, another type of star here. So he had like 30 or 40 different parquetry designs. So he taught you how to do the parquetry. We did parquetry as geometric shapes, okay? Marquetry is when you do things like flowers and things of that. We didn't have time to do flowers, but we did it on parquetry. So you build your skin, you glue your skin to the MDF, and you move on. He wanted us to tell a story about our parquetry. So, I don't know if you can see it or not. So my story is I have a few specks of this star up here. And those little specks get together and they form a star here. And then these little hashtags come up and join up over here. And this star comes over here and wraps around to the front. So just not learning how to do parquetry, but how to take parquetry or marquetry and wrap it around edges. How to wrap it around edges to your fronts. So you could do this to table legs and things of that sort.
Was there anything special on the inside?
Oh, absolutely. And that's not all. So the inside here, we did a pinwheel type style parquetry. I do have a story about the red and black, so I'll tell you that during break time. If you have any questions on this, come see me during break and I'll answer the best I can. But there's a little story behind the red and the black. Also, this shelf is a 1/2-inch radius veneered. So we learned how to veneer up to a 1/2-inch radius curve without it cracking and breaking. About 1/2 inch is about as far as you can go. But learned a lot from this class. The finish on it is Sherwin-Williams fine satin catalyzed lacquer. So that was fun to do. I really enjoy that lacquer, that finish. Went on nice and smooth, no complaints. So, any questions that you may have?
How much veneer did you use for this project?
All of it. All of it you see, there's veneer.
I see there's veneer, but
Right.
what I'm saying is, how much did you have to purchase?
Measure it. I'm kidding. The thing about the class is he had all the veneer up there. He just handed you 2 sheets. Here, you do in the front, then you veneer in the back. Your edge glue in the back first. So he gets it rhythm. You're going fast. You're whooped after 6 days. The question was, why did he use solid maple at the bottom and not at the top? The reason for different techniques, a different way, it's a technique of how to put on veneer onto products. So if you could do this whole thing out of solid maple and then cut it. Same thing like if you were doing a door with stile and rails, right? So how would you do that? You'll find out in a couple of months. I'm figuring that out still. Any other questions? If I could say, if you have any questions, come see me during the break. We'll go from there. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Robert.
I was going to ask you whether I know. Remember the name.
Scroll saw? No, that's all knife work. That's all by X-Acto blade. We didn't use scroll saws. Oh, I'm sorry. We did use a scroll saw on these curves. Yes, I didn't. I'm not that good. Yeah.
Well,
but all the parquetry is all X-Acto blade.
But you've used laser cutters too, right?
Yes, I have. Yes, I've used laser cutters too.
You still rather cut it by hand than using a laser?
The lasers can really do mass production. I mean, you can make out 10 panels in no time. So it depends if you have a business or not. So I do enjoy the laser. I actually like the burn of the laser. I like that little bit of sand shading, that char. Some people don't like it. To me, I think it makes it more interesting. The woods in here is holly. That's the reason why it's so white. This one here, I believe, is sycamore. So it's like a type of maple, fiddleback maple, but that's what I thought it was at first until I started putting together. So these will stay white, and this maple will get tanner. And that's the reason why there's black around there, because the stars that were made originally, you wouldn't really be able to see that star stand out. So, yeah. Anyone else? The question was, how long did it take? It was a 6-day class up there, and then 2 more weeks after that. So I'd be at work, get up at 4:30 in the morning for work. I said, I got a half an hour. So I'd just glue this one here, this edge piece here, let it cure for 8 hours, get home from work, then I'd glue that edge piece in. So it was, anyway, yeah, a lot of fun. So about 3 weeks. Okay.
Did you make
Did you make the banding on the bottom as well?
Yeah, I made the banding on the bottom.
Did you
That's
do
the
that
story
in-
I got. That's the story I got to tell you, huh?
Did you do it out of veneer, or did you do it out of like stacked solids and then slice them?
No, these are all 1-inch strips, and then cut them out of squares, and then piece them together. Same thing with the other diamond. Yeah. So, yep.
So is this for sale? Is this for your home?
This will be
Where's
for
this-
my home. It's a learning piece. So, yeah, I really enjoyed the class. So, if you're thinking about taking classes, take them here at the Guild. A lot of Guild members, we do like Kumiko, line and bearing, things like that. Learn from these guys. This was a 6-day class. I enjoy veneering, so I just wanted to take it up to another level. So you're always going to learn every time you take a class. So we have a lot of good people here at the Guild. Mark's taught about 100 students this, so he has it down pat. So, yes, sir. Mark Adams was the instructor. So that was good.
Very good, Dave.
All right, thank you.
Matt? What do you have?
Yarn bowls. I've about 6 patterns that I've made over the years, and every year I do a little bit different. I just did these 2 patterns this year. I made a dozen. 10 of them are sitting in Leavenworth in a yarn shop right now. There's a yarn shop hop starting tomorrow, and I took 2 of them from her so I could bring them here for show and tell before they go back to the shop hop. And if they don't go there,
Matt,
then
turn the bowl up so I can see the top.
And then we also have a creative hand sale and show and sale at Old Shawneetown. It's the weekend before Thanksgiving, and I know I talk about this every year. It's an outstanding show for fiber products and such like that. I know some of you all have been there. Some years we've sold over $65,000 worth of stuff in a 12-hour show. We had a poor year last year. We only sold about $35,000 worth of stuff. So if you want to see an extremely well-run show, when the lady says jump, you ask how high, and you do it. You know, these ladies who run this show, it's really crazy. At any rate, these are yarn bowls made out of poplar.
How'd you cut the holes?
All the holes were cut on the scroll saw. In theory, you could probably do it on a CNC, but not this one. You would not do that feather pattern. I talked to Ed about that, and that's just too small, and the wood is too thick to be able to do that. Same thing with as far as cutting it on the laser. The wood is too thick, and you have to have a heavier wood because when it sits in here and you run your ball of yarn in there and the string comes through here, you want it to be heavy enough that it sits still. It's not going to be sliding all over the floor. So the finish is just an ordinary old oil and wax finish. That's about it.
Very nice. Any questions?
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Matt.
My name is Larry Walling. This is a, I'm sorry. This is a twig table. The base is MDF, and then 1,000 twigs are nailed to it. The twigs come from the Canadian boundary waters, about 600 miles north of here, from Queen's Forest. That's the biggest problem, is getting the twigs. There are places online where you can buy twigs, but they're not quite the right size. So there's a slight variation in color. They range from about 1/4 inch that allows you to make circles. The rest of them are about 3/8. Some of them are thicker, and then I thin them down with a bandsaw. The only problem with this is the center post wasn't quite good enough so that wiggles, but this is intended to be about as complicated as they get. Now this is an art, they say, it came out of the Adirondacks, Maine or New Hampshire, up there, where the winters where you did nothing but find something to do, so they did twig tables. There are nice books on the subject. I'll donate some to the library one of these days. But there it is, and the star on top is a typical design.
How did you cut your angles on your willow?
I used a bandsaw. Actually, I have a very small bandsaw about that big, and that's what I used. It just made it easy. I think I probably did it by eyeball. They're pretty good.
And you hammered in each one of these, or did you use a brad nailer?
Each one's put in. I don't remember if I used my pen nailer or a little larger nail. Each one's done individually. If I have a flat back, I'll put some glue on them. But these are all mostly just held in by nails, which is the traditional method. Now, you ask what the complications are. Well, it's collecting the twigs or treating the poison ivy that resulted from the collection. The finish, the final finish is polyurethane. That makes it semi-outdoorsy, but it's not waterproof MDF, so it's definitely an interior project. So.
And the time it took to do all this?
Oh, I don't know. If I sat down to do it, it'd take 2 days, but in reality, it probably took a month. Or I don't. Who knows? I don't do this for speed. I do it for fun, which is the way you ought to do things.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So there it is. There's another twig table in the back, a little larger one, the base of which is driftwood, which I also collected up north. So anyone who wants to go back in that little room will see that other one.
Very good. Any questions?
Oh.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Ready.
Not actually that much wood on what I'm bringing in today, but it was made here, so. And the jig is wood, so that's how I justify it.
John, scoot him towards you just a little bit for me.
A little bit closer?
Towards you.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant the. Okay, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, they were just, slate coasters from Amazon, engraved on the laser. They take about 15 to 20 minutes each, depending on the engraving.
And the pattern for getting those came off the internet? Or did you draw those out yourself?
Oh, I wish I could do that. This one I got from Etsy. I believe the file was $3. These two I found on a website called laser/pix.com, and they were free. Pretty. I've always been a little leery of this kind of detail engraving, but it was surprisingly easier than I expected.
Now, will you put any kind of a finish over this, or are you just going to leave them raw?
No, I leave them raw because it's stone. It's not going to swell or anything. I'm not expecting it to be, beat up a lot. I'm not sure, what the durability of slate is. I've never used slate coasters.
Well, they've used it for roofing in Europe for years, from
Yeah,
the Romans' time, so I'd say you're pretty safe.
Yeah, the engraving actually turns the slate white, so you get a pretty good contrast.
Yeah.
You've just got to invert the image.
Yeah. Very nice. Any questions?
Are all those lines the same speed and same power?
Yes, all the engraving. I found that the speed and power isn't really that important for slate. I used 300 millimeters per second speed and 36% power, but a little bit less speed, a little bit more power. It doesn't make a huge difference on slate. I did a test pattern, and if you get really slow and really powerful, it gets engraves pretty deeply, but otherwise it just turns white. So.
Yeah, I had two questions. He actually asked the first one, so that's good on him. I thought we were only allowed to do wood. How are we doing slate? And are there other materials we're also able to engrave?
I just got approval for slate just within the last week.
I'm going to add that at next Wednesday's Laser SIG meeting, that topic may come up again, and there'll probably be a all points bulletin for all members to be in tune with.
We are definitely staying away from any kind of acrylics, just because you have to get a very specific type of acrylic to engrave, and we don't want to police, check everything. We may, allow other stone as well eventually, after we do a little bit more. I mean, it's taken us several years to work up to slate, so.
Russ, you have a question?
Okay, is that on? Okay. How would about how to cut?
John, repeat that question for us, please.
Here,
If you had your own slate and you wanted to cut it, any ideas how you would cut it? I know those were all pre-cut, but how would a person go about cutting it?
I've never actually done it myself, but you can use a tile cutter. It's actually much easier. It's to cut them, and then just basically take a little hammer and chip away the edges to get this nice natural slate look. I've also seen some people, if you know enough about slate, you can just do it with a cold chisel and a hammer. I wouldn't personally do that. But yeah, a tile saw and then just, a little bit chipping on the edges if you want a natural look.
Very good. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Good job. All right, Dave Roth, bring up one more.
All right, this here is a Roman style Intarsia helmet. But before I start on this, does everyone know who Judy Gail Roberts is, who does Intarsia? She just passed away a couple weeks ago. So I just want to bring that to your attention. Check out her type of work and type of woodworking she did. That's where a lot of Intarsia artists got started. That's where I got started 20-something years ago on doing this. So just want to bring it to your attention. This here's a Roman style Intarsia military helmet. The types of wood used are walnut, wingy, holly, Indian rosewood, cherry, and sapelli. The finish, again, is a Sherwin-Williams catalyzed lacquer, because you only have a 4-month shelf life with that lacquer. So I got about a half gallon left. There's 3 coats on it. A lot of wood in this project, wood was used with leftovers from other projects. The only wood I purchased was the Indian rosewood, and the Indian rosewood is right here. It's the first time I ever used it. And they had it at Woodcraft. So when I go to Rockler or Woodcraft or someplace like that, I see a nice piece of wood, I'll kind of grab it and squirrel it away for a project. Any questions? Yes, sir.
As you finish, or do you have them do it at the store?
They did it at the store. Now, those who know how to catalyze, I have no idea, but I asked her, how much you putting in there in this gallon container, right? And she says 3 ounces. Well, first of all, she has a quart container, right? She has a quart container of lacquer, or a quart container of this catalyzed stuff, gallon of lacquer, a quart container, pouring it in there. It's not 3 ounces. She put in about 6 ounces. The only problem was there's only about that much catalyst left in the container. So I don't know if it was old and she added more. I don't know. So if anyone knows that, please let me know. But man, there's a lot of it in there. But did I answer your question? Okay, sorry. If you have any other further questions, come see me during the break. All right, thank you.
Thank you, David.
All right, thanks everybody for your show and tells. That was great projects. A lot of variety, a lot of good stuff. So thank you all for bringing them in. We're going to take a break. We'll go about 10 minutes or so. So grab something to drink, grab a snack, and come back and sit, and we'll be ready to go with William. We'll give you the warning. We'll give you a couple of warnings that we're getting ready to start, but hopefully we can all be ready for the program in about 10 minutes. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Mike Jones, and welcome to another episode of the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild's ongoing series of machine safety videos. Today's video will introduce you to the safety rules and requirements of the Powermatic 8-inch joiner and the Grizzly 16-inch woodworking joiner. Keep in mind that, like all safety videos, this video only covers the safety concerns of these machines, and it's not a complete training program for the use of this equipment. When in the shop, please direct any questions about using these or other machines to the shop foreman. He or she is there to act as your main resource to help keep you safe and provide advice in assisting you to successfully complete your project. And always remember, the most important of safety concerns is to wear approved safety glasses with side shields at all times while in our shop. Joiners are used to prepare stock for making joints by smoothing and flattening an edge or face of the stock that you're using in a project. Joiners have high-speed rotating knives that remove material from the bottom face or the edge of a board as it is pushed over the blades. Typically, a joiner is used to make one face of a board flat, straight, and smooth, and to make one adjacent edge flat, straight, smooth, and square to the jointed face. All of the joiners in our shop have what are called helical cutting heads with many small cutters mounted in them. These types of cutters produce a much finer finish on your project lumber and are therefore preferred over the 2 or 3 straight blades that are found on many joiners. The helical cutting heads also require less maintenance than straight blades. They stay sharp longer and produce a smoother surface because they're made of solid carbide. The joiner should be set to remove no more than 1/16 of an inch of stock in a single pass through the cutter head. Stock must also be at least 12 inches long or longer, and the width of the stock cannot be wider than the cutter head on the machine, 8-inch or 16-inch, depending upon which machine you are using. When joining your stock, make sure to start the attached dust collector before starting the joiner. This is done by using the provided fob or remote control device located near the joiner. Also, you should spend a moment to verify that the dust collector that you'll be using is not full and requiring service. If you're not sure how to empty an attached dust collector, please consult with the shop foreman. Examine the board or boards that you will be joining. Loose knots should be removed to prevent them from becoming projectiles that could injure you or another member. Any boards that could possibly contain metal objects, such as barnwood, need to be scanned with a metal detector and receive approval of the shop foreman on duty before being jointed. Also, remember that any treated lumber is banned from milling operation at the Guild because they've been treated with harmful chemicals. Make sure that you're using push blocks to remove your stock through the cutter, and double check before starting your cut that your hands will stay more than 3 inches away from the cutter head. Do not attempt to joint the face of a board that's less than 5/8 inch thick. Although the fence on the joiner can be tilted, we recommend that you introduce any angles to your stock at the table saw, the router table, or other alternate methods. When joining your lumber, make sure that guards over the cutter heads remain in place and move back to their starting position automatically after you pass your lumber through the machine. Always run wood through the joiner with the grain running parallel to the length of the joiner bed. Examine the stock for grain direction, warp, twist, burl, swirl, kink, and cup before joining. Each of these conditions need to be addressed using a different technique to be safely flattened. Never ever joint across the grain. This will cause tear out, and this may happen in an explosive manner. When straightening a cupped or bowed piece of stock, the concave face should be face down, and the humped or convex side face up. Always feed stock from right to left as you face the machine. When you're joining the face of a board, don't let your thumb or your fingers hang over the back end of a board to push it through the joiner. Always use push pads to stay safe from injury. Walk long boards through the cut and avoid applying pressure to the leading few inches of the stock, since this may result in tipping the board or your fingers into the cutter at the start of the cut. Do not back your workpiece out of a cut. Either keep going in the direction of the outfeed table or shut the machine off and lift your piece off once the cutter head has come to a complete stop. You may adjust the thickness of your cut by adjusting the infeed table up or down. Lowering the table will increase the depth of your cut. Denser stocks or boards that are approaching the maximum capacity of the joiner will require a less aggressive depth of cut. And you should remember that finer cuts will result in a better finish. The outfeed table on all of our joiners have been adjusted to provide the best joining result. Please do not make any adjustments to the outfeed table. If you find that the outfeed table does need adjusting, you should consult with the shop foreman. Once you have completed joining your stock, you should shut down the dust collector, turn off the joiner, and wait for the cutting head to come to a complete stop. Take a moment to check your work area, clean up the machine and the floor around where you've been working. This is Mike Jones. Thanks for watching.
Hi, my name is Laura Provance, and welcome to another of the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild ongoing series of machine safety videos. Today's video will cover your introduction to the safety rules and requirements of the Guild's radial arm saw and how to safely operate this piece of equipment. Keep in mind that like all safety videos, this video only covers the safety concerns and is not a complete training program for the use of the saw. Remember, anytime you're in the shop, to have your safety glasses with side shield. The radial arm saw in the Guild's shop has been set up for cutting lumber to length only. While a radial arm saw can be adjusted to make a wide variety of cuts, our saw is set up to only make a 90-degree square cut. A radial arm saw is a saw mounted on an upper rigid track, allowing the saw to make wide, precise crosscuts. Cuts are made holding the wood to the fence and pulling the saw across the wood. The minimum length of stock permitted to be cut on the radial arm saw is 12 inches. The blade of the radial arm saw rotates such that the force of the blade on the wood is down and back towards the fence. Stock must be placed so that it will not move during the cut. The stock must remain firmly on the table and firmly against the fence at the line of the cut. Bores with bow must be positioned with the belly of the bow to the fence so the board will not move toward the fence during the cut. Likewise, boards with cup or twist need to be firmly supported on the table to avoid any movement during the cut. This may require the insertion of a shim under the board to offer additional support to make it safe to make your cut. Make sure that thicker stock does not contact the blade when it is placed against the fence. Thicker stock may need to be shimmed out from the fence by placing a temporary auxiliary fence between your stock and the machine's installed fence. If they are needed, any shims or auxiliary fences should be in place before you turn on the radial arm saw. Realize that the 3-inch rule applies to a strip 3 inches on either side of the blade. The 3-inch rule applies to the entire length of the travel of the blade across the table. To make a cut, start by ensuring you are not in conflict with someone on the miter saw, since you share a common work area. Turn on the dust collector at the mounted remote control. Place your stock securely on the table. Turn on the saw. Assume a stable stance and grasp the saw handle with your right hand, and with your left hand hold the stock firmly down to the table and against the fence. Remember the 3-inch rule. Pull the saw smoothly through the wood. Do not pull the saw faster than the blade can cut the stock. Realize that the saw is heavy and has inertia, so you must control the speed of the cut. When your stock has been cut completely, push the saw back to its starting position. With the saw safely back in its starting position, turn off the saw and wait for the blade to come to a complete stop. Turn off the dust collector and take a moment to clean up your work area. This is Laura Provance. Thanks for watching.
All right, everybody. I think we're about ready to get started with the program. Appreciate everybody's attention. I met William just before the meeting, so we're very excited. I'm not going to steal any of his thunder, so I'm going to let William introduce himself and go for it. Nice to have you. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me? There you go. Okay. All right. You all have a great guild, by the way. I'm from Springfield, Missouri, and our guild is at Grizzly. And everybody been to Grizzly or heard of Grizzly, I'm sure. But we have about maybe 12 or 15 members per guild meeting. But my name is Bill or William Fehrenbach. I'm from Springfield. I'm a native of the Springfield area. I have family up in Liberty, so we're up here a time or two. I'm an old Kansas City Royal fan. Used to love the Royals when I was a kid. So, and my story I just kind of wanted to share. And I'm by no means a master woodworker. I just want to kind of put that out there. So I'm somebody who's kind of tinkered with the hobby for about 15 or 20 years. I built little tables and plant stands and such. Recently built a bookshelf for my middle son. But I discovered this method. I had an accident with a table saw, and it really startled me. About cut my finger off. And if anybody's ever done that, especially been at home alone, when you've done that, it can be a fairly upsetting experience. So that I was already looking into hand tools and getting into some traditional hand tool woodworking, and that happened. And then that kind of settled it for me. I still use a table saw from time to time. I hope you all are using the saw stop if you use those, because things can happen so quick. So please be careful with those table saws and any other power tool. But I called Lee Valley. I was interested in building small boxes, things like this, and I'll kind of explain why that is. And Lee Valley recommended this book, and I was looking at a totally different book. And he said, buy this book, and after you work your way through this book, he said you can build about anything. So I bought the book. And I was on vacation down in Alabama, and I took this book with me, and I saw that Toyohisa's website was in the back, and so I emailed Toyohisa. Sugita is his name. He's a native of Tokyo. And so the story is I bought the commercial jigs. I bought the crosscut guide and the ripping guide. The crosscut guide, you may know what that is. Has anybody ever seen this? I never have, and you wouldn't know what it is by looking at it, but it's going to be neat to show it to you. So I bought the jigs, and I started making some things, and I would send my photos to Toyohisa and say, hey, I made my first rabbit joint box, and he was excited and very encouraging, and so we kind of became pen pals over email and developed a friendship. And the next thing I knew, I was on my way to Tokyo with my two boys, oldest boys, Turner and TJ, and we spent about 10 days there, and I spent about half my time there with Toyohisa. And it was just a really, really neat experience, and I was able to learn his method a little more in depth. And of course, you can learn everything through the book, but we all know the hands-on method. When you learn from somebody, you learn the little tricks, stuff you really don't get out of the book. So I found my time with him to really, really supplement the book. This is a great book. It's very schematic. For instance, if you learn to cut a half-lap joint, which is one I'm going to show everybody tonight, he shows, the picture of the project, and then your schematic layout, and then from there, how to mark your wood, and then it's step by step, so it really walks you through the book. The neat thing about the ripping guide is you can cut half-lap joints, bridle joints, which are sometimes a very difficult joint to cut, and typically a lot of people use a table saw, but this allows you to cut bridle joint, spline joint, box joint, mitered half-lap, and mortise and tenon joints too. So with one little guide, you can cut a wide variety of joints. So tonight I'll show the half-lap joint, and it's a fairly quick one to cut. But we're going to start the slides. I know we have an eye on the time, but I would like to show some slides. And I have the privilege of representing Toyohisa. This is more about him, less about me, because this is his method. It's his book. he has a desire to, for his method to become known in the United States. He has written multiple books, which I have a picture of, but you saw the picture of the book. But he also has 3 U.S. patents, and these are since expired, but they have more to do with a router. And he is coming out with a new router book in March. It'll be published by GMC Publications out of the UK, same as this, but he has a new router book coming out too. But he's done a lot of machine type work, but as time went on, he developed this method with hand tools and magnetic saw guides. So he's held 3 U.S. patents. Next slide should show his Toyohisa. When we were visiting, I asked Toyohisa how he learned woodworking, and it was Fine Woodworking magazine. This is his first magazine from October 1982. So he still has that, and that's his first edition that he owned from Fine Woodworking. So I learned. The next slide, this is down in Toyohisa's office area where he does a lot of his 3D work. He loves photography. But these are all his books that he's written. 2 of them you could see are the current book, but he's published quite a few books in Japanese, so he's done some extensive book writing. Toyohisa built a yacht when he was in his late 30s. This is the prototype of the yacht. In the back of the book, he built it pretty much identical to that, but in the back of the book you'll see the scaffolding, and he actually built that, and I saw pictures of it, but it looks just like that. But that was a prototype he went off of, and it has the bed in the front, a little dining quarter in the back, restroom, and a little area in the back that you can lower yourself down. But he launched that in the Bay of Tokyo after he finished it, but he since sold it. So I'd imagine after you build a yacht, you can probably build about anything. So this is Toyohisa. For years he did teaching sessions at Hand in Tokyo, which is a hardware store, and he would schedule individual sessions. He does group teaching, but at Hands he would teach one-on-one. So he'd schedule, I believe, 1 person a week. They would come in, they'd spend an hour. So he did quite a bit of teaching individually. Now he also, still in Japan, teaches groups. This is the ripping guide. This is the main saw guide with Sugita's woodworking method. And basically, I'm going to take this off so I can kind of show everybody what this is about. So what this allows the user to do, and this can be adjusted for right-handed fit or left-handed. You can move the acrylic fence over to this side. You have a couple pinhead screws. It allows you to register your piece of wood up against the saw guide perpendicular to the saw blade, and you get a perfectly straight cut. And you mount it on the back with this onto the bench. And you also have you can make a homemade jig to where you can stick through the back and attach a picture frame to cut spline joints, which is really handy. And I actually brought one of those. I just made this myself, and I'm going to set this up. But it'll clamp really easy. If I get my clamp down. And basically you have a magnet on the top and the magnet on the bottom. And the beauty of this is you use acrylic spacers, and these are 5 millimeter, 2 millimeter, 3 millimeter, 0.5, 0.3, 0.2. So really, you have the equivalent of a manual numerical control device versus a CNC, because you literally can adjust your fit to the 0.1 millimeter. So this slides in and out, and you have a couple screws in the back. That obviously that's flat, but I've adjusted these already to what I want to use for the half lap. That pulls out, and they have a couple spacers in the back, and basically these are pre-machined. You drop your spacers in, and if you're cutting spline joints, part of the beauty is you just enter, you pre-cut your spline, you enter it, you just add it here, and then tighten it, and you already have your adjustment for the perfect width of the spline. So I'm going to pass around some of the different joints that this cuts. Here's a couple of, and you feel free to just pass these around, take a look at them. This is a spline joint. You pass around that way. Cut with this. This is a bridle joint. This is a mitered half lap glued joint. And I have a couple mitered half lap joints here that you can actually see how they go together. So this is a mitered half lap. You can also make that to where it's this way, but this the half lap's on the top. So I'll pass that around. But these are all joints that can be cut with this method. This is another bridle joint. You can see how tight and nice that bridle joint is. Okay. And this picture frame, this is walnut. These are my kids. This is Turner, TJ, and Joseph. They're a lot younger. They're all grown now. But this is walnut, and this is soft maple. And you can see how clean that half lap joint is and how straight down the cut is. You can also make rabbets with the guides. I chose on this one to have more of a deep set picture. You can just tape it on the back, but I do have one at home. It has a rabbeted back, and you can make it in such a way where the rabbets are not exposed at the end, which is very important. But this is a nice contrast with walnut and maple. Same with this is a rabbet joint box. This is walnut. This is, I believe, poplar, and I chamfered the inside and actually used wallpaper on this one. And this is a plow plane. There's grooves in here, so this box bottom is actually set in that. But I'll pass that around, and that's something that you can make. This is a sliding lid box. This is something Toyo Hisa and I still meet by Zoom once a week, and we learned to build this. You can see the rabbet joints here, and this is just a simple sliding lid. Not really difficult, but it's a handy box, and I'll pass that around. Next slide, and we'll get to the joint here in a minute. I don't know if I'll get through all the slides. This is the crosscut guide. As you can see, after you make your rip cut straight down, you use a crosscut guide to cut off your opposite side of the half lap or any other cut, your bridle joints. Next slide. This crosscut guide comes with 2 pins, and you can see the pins, but once those pins are added, and the holes are right here on top, once those pins are added, you can make a miter cut. So with the crosscut guide, you not only you can make a perfect 90-degree cut, you can also make a mitered cut. This is how it all started with Toyo Hisa. This are his original guides. It's a wooden ripping guide. It eventually evolved into this. And the one to the left is a crosscut guide, which you can make these at home. The book has diagrams. All these can be made by hand. I'm going to send this one off to Lee Valley eventually. But this is one I made. This is hard maple. It's got a little green on the front, but I made the fence with a drill press because you have to slide the fence back and forth. You can loosen it. And when you work on a photo frame, you have to retract the fence. And then when you work on a half-lap bridle joint, box joint, you have to push it back out so you can register your stock at a 90 degree. But with the wooden ones, you have to make your own spacers of different millimeters. And the method uses double-sided tape. So this is attached with double-sided tape. Then you can remove it, put on a thicker spacer, or this one you just slide the spacers in and out. This one does not have a magnet, and I'll explain the purpose of the magnet, but there's two embedded magnets. With this method, when you mark your wood, you'll mark it X and O. And with the O facing out, you have to take into account the saw kerf, because your saw creates dust. And if you don't account for the saw blade, then you're going to have gaps in your work. So what we do is we attach a magnet, or we attach the saw blade here when the O is facing out, and that allows you not to have a gap, and I'll demonstrate that. So next slide. Okay, this is another aluminum guide. I don't have it here with me, but this is a jig that Toyo Hisa came up with. The bottom is called the case miter support. The top is the case miter guide. It allows you to cut perfect 45-degree miters to make boxes. And the case miter support allows you to clamp the case miter on top of it, and you basically just tilt it. That way you can cut like this instead of like that. Okay. Next slide. Toyo Hisa was a Lee Nielsen distributor before COVID. When COVID hit, Lee Nielsen quit shipping to Japan, and they still don't. But he's a big Lee Nielsen proponent. When I was in Tokyo, I tried out his Lee Nielsen 16.5 block plane, and I was so impressed with it, with the weight and just how it shaved. I came home and bought one. So, but this is one of the main planes that is used with this method as well. Also use I bought the Veritas. This is a low angle jack. Anybody has a low angle jack, they're great. The little router plane is very good for making dados. He recommends the Lee Nielsen because it's got a square shaft. When you're doing your dado, it doesn't move. Next slide. Picture of a bridle joint. You can see the O's that have been marked. Next slide. This is Toyo Hisa and I. We're working on one of our projects during the day was a splayed leg stool. So that's Toyo Hisa and I in his shop garage. Got that picture before I left. This is an example of this mounted to the front and attach from behind, and that's how you would cut a spline joint with this ripping guide. Okay, next slide. This is her name, Michiko, which is Toyohisa's friend. She teaches the method in Japan. She also joined us. Next slide. And every day they'd cook me lunch. It was great. I had original, authentic Japanese rice bowls and all kinds of different good food. But that's Michiko and Toyohisa at Toyohisa's dinner table. So this is a recent box Toyohisa made. This may be the last slide we show, so I can get on to the half-lap joint. But this is a double splined box with curved edges. It's got a sliding lid, and the stain he used on top was a mahogany type stain. So he made that with the spline joints, double spline joints made with the ripping guide, used a plow plane on the inside, and then curved the corners. I'm not quite sure. I think he had a certain sanding block he may have used for the outer corners. So, well, there's a half-lap joint. And the next slide, some of his pictures. If you go to my website, this is all of his work, and these are all his picture frames. And this is a hall mirror Toyohisa made, a very beautiful piece. You can see the joinery on the side. And another, this is a case miter box, two-toned. The two-toned touch is very, very nice. As you can see with the half-lap frame, makes very beautiful work. Mitered half-lap, which is being passed around. This is a box. Toyohisa had lots of boxes in his basement. He says if you build big things, you just have to find somewhere to put them. So he likes building smaller things. Not that he hasn't he obviously built a yacht, but he likes building smaller things. This is made, again, cutting a spline joint, and that is a stool. That is in the back of the book. You could make that with the book. That's a simple rabbet joint. And that's a spline joint before the spline is cut. So another just plain bridle joint and rabbet joint and mortise and tenon. And with, I believe this is the last slide, this is the Veritas small plow plane. This piece of wood is attached to the workpiece, to the workbench with double-sided tape. And this is a simple tongue depressor that's cut in half, applied with double-sided tape, which serves as the stop. And once you register that piece and have it flush against the work, once you have that, I don't know what that noise is, but once you have that workpiece applied to the workbench with double-sided tape and registered up against that small piece of wood, it stays pretty firmly fixed. And that's how he cuts his grooves. And he's big on the fences, and I made this out of walnut. This is a small plow and plane. These with the Veritas, you have a little fence. If you can make a larger fence, it just registers better up against the workbench. So you get a more full registration. It keeps it more even, keeps your cut a little more square. So with that, we'll do a rabbet joint or a half-lap joint. But first of all, I want to tell you about the saw blades. What I do with this is I have one saw, and this is Toyohisa's saw that the manufacturer manufactured for his method. Lee Valley makes one that's flush cut like this, but it's a straight blade on the bottom. They also make a contour blade, but it's a set saw. So this is the only contoured, non-set, flush cut saw of this size available that I know about. If you know of one, send it to me. I like to see it, but to my knowledge, this is the only one. So we use the long handle for rabbit cuts. I have one blade that I use, and this is a depth stop, and I'll explain it. Use that for ripping. I use the sharper saw for ripping, and an older saw blade for the cross cut. So I'm going to lay this over here. So you can use one saw. It's just that's just my preference. But what I did to set this depth stop is this is just a piece of MDF, and Michiko made this for me in Tokyo. So I obviously brought it home. It's got 3 embedded magnets, and it attaches very well. But what you do is you take your piece of wood that you're going to cut, and you put your saw blade with the teeth down. You can see how the blade's contoured. So put your wood there, and basically after the wood's on, then you apply the tongue depressor. So that's your depth stop, and I'll show you how that works. This is applied with double-sided tape. So after you're done with it, you can remove it, easily reapply it, okay? So once you have that set, you're going to register your wood up against the ripping guide. I'm going to mark the X. I marked it X and O, and I'm going to face the X out first, and the X is going to go, it's my waist, and after I cut my first cut, I'm going to register it against here, and I'm going to cut my half lap. But that depth stop's important because what I'm going to use as a reference to cut is I'm just going to measure it. I'm going to make those flush, and I'm just going to finger it to where it's smooth. I'm going to feel that it's smooth, and then I'm going to make my cross cut. But I'll show you. So the X is going to be out. And really what I do, all I do is, and I wish everybody over there could see, but I'm going to register it here. And as you can see, the acrylic guide keeps it 90 degree. And I'm going to clamp. And what I like to do, I like to clamp about in the middle, a little ways down, because if you clamp too far up and you start to cut, it's going to squeeze the space and your saw blade could bind. So I like to clamp it a little farther down. I'm going to take my saw that I use to rip, because this is a ripping guide. It's cutting with the grain, not against the grain. I got my depth stop, and so I'm going to saw until I get to my depth stop. So basically, this is a saw guide. It uses magnets, and it's just going to stick. So one thing with this method, it's a great beginner method. And as hobbyists, not all of us have time to devote to become, maybe as seasoned woodworkers as we want to be. But I've also had interest from people who are getting out of power tools, who want a safer method, but they want machine-like accuracy. I've sold a guide to a man in San Diego who was an engineer. He liked the precision. He liked the increments because you can get down to about a 0.1 millimeter. So I've had interest from also people who live in apartments, because the minimalist approach in Tokyo, you can imagine they don't have sometimes they have a lot of high-rise apartments. A lot of people don't live in houses like we do. However, there are still a lot of houses in Tokyo. But people actually use this in apartments. They don't have the noise of power tools. They don't create such the mess. They may not have a big garage to make a big shop. They may have a designated room. So this also appeals to that demographic as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I've registered my wood, and I'm going to cut. I'm going to start cutting. And I'm going to tighten it a little more. And you can see the saw, it's keeping it perpendicular to the end of the wood. So with saw blade, I'm making a straight cut down. So you can compare that to a circular saw. We use circular saws, or chop saws. We chop straight down, makes a perfectly, perpendicular cut. This is done with a Japanese saw. You can use a set saw with this, but it's going to tear up your magnetic sheet, and set saws have a tendency to want to move a little bit. This is going to stay straight up and down. So I'm going to unclamp, and you can see there's my cut. It's just how I want it. I'm going to come over here, and a pair of calipers also works for this, because you can take some veneer calipers, measure the width, register it up like that, but it works. Put the lip here and press it up to where it hits on the lip, and you can stop it like that. Or what you can do is just use this piece of wood. This is same width, and then it's flush. I'm feeling it with my finger. And even if you're a little bit off and you cut it, you can always trim with your block plane. So it's not the end of the world. But this usually comes out pretty good. So I'm going to clamp. And this crosscut guide has a fence. Some of you can see that. It's an aluminum fence in the back on the bottom. And that has to be square at 90 degrees, especially if you build your own, but you can build them out of wood. This one's machined. But that has to be square, or your cut will be, it'll be diagonal. It will be a little bit off. And basically, your X, I always want to double check. After I clamp it, I always look, make sure my X is up. You don't want to cut off your O. And really, all you do here and there's your half lap. So, and I like to keep these. I use them when I do glue ups for picture frames, so I don't mark it. But pass that around. That's how square that is. So I'm going to remove this. Sometimes you may have a little bit of grain on the corner. If that happens, I'll take a chisel and just kind of clean that out. This one really doesn't need it. So with the area marked, I'm going to find my saw blade spacer. And those are saw blades. Here it is. So I keep an old saw blade. This is my spacer. And I want to apply my spacer or I'll have a gap because I have to account for the saw curve, the width of the saw curve. So I'm going to place it right here. And if I'm using my wooden ripping guide, I have my magnets that's going to hold it. So I'll pass that around too if you all want to look at that. So I just put it here, and I get my other piece of wood, and I have it marked XO. So I'm going to put the O, this time, the O is going to face out. So with the O faced out, the rule is you enter your saw blade spacer, or you'll have a gap. So again, I'm going to clamp a little ways down. And I have my depth stop, same depth. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I have my X. I need to mark it XO because I need to remember which side to cut. I'm going to cut off my waist. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use this piece to measure. And I'm going to clamp. And then I take my other, I double check. So, and there's your half lap. And that's really as simple as that is. So there's your half lap. Now bridle joints are a little more involved because you have two cuts on each. You have to take your coping saw on one of the pieces. You have to cut out your middle, then you have to chisel. So mitered half lap. You can make a homemade crosscut guide, or you can buy a guide. This is one that Toyohisa sent home with me. But this is a crosscut guide, and I use this for miters, 45 degree. You can also attach magnetic tape over here. It serves as also a crosscut guide. And basically, what you do with this, all you got to do, this is dado. I took a little router plane after I made my cuts, consecutive cuts across, popped it out with a knife and then cleaned it out. And you can set this really this way in your vise and then clamp your wood underneath like so, and just make your cut. But your fence has to be square. Okay, so a miter square is very helpful. Because if this isn't square, your cuts aren't going to be square. So Toyohisa's book has all kinds of ways to make these homemade jigs. The commercial jigs that are made out of high precision aluminum are also available. That's what the ripping guide is. It is MDF, aluminum, and then acrylic spacers. So, and that's really the basics. So half lap joint, is a fairly simple joint. Your bridle joints get more involved. A drill press. Drill press is really the only power tool I use. Once in a blue moon, I'll use my table saw and band saw, but he likes a bamboo bit. They really make a clean mortise, but that was made with a bamboo bit, and his mortise and tenon jig that he sells, which also can be made, but it uses leverage to keep the piece of wood clamped up against the fence. So, and then you cut your tenon with the ripping guide up and down. And then you can make another jig to cut the side, cut it off. So that's it.
What's the bamboo bit?
A bamboo bit is, it's a little, it's a bit, it's a Japanese bit, and it's not like your regular drill bit. It's drilled a little different, but it cuts very, very clean. They're not as long. The actual cutting portion is about that long, and it's got a tip on it's got a sharp tip on the end. But it is in his book. I don't know if I can, here it is.
It looks a little bit like a Brad point.
Brad point, yeah. It's very similar. Lee Valley carries Brad point bits. It's fairly similar.
Guys, reminder, please use microphones.
Yeah. So.
Can you do dovetails?
His book has a jig that he built to do dovetails. You have to obviously slant it. It's better with box joints, but there is a homemade jig that you can build to do dovetails.
Does it include half-blind dovetails?
I'm not sure about half-blind, but I'm confident that he can do them. That's a good question.
Tell me about the saw blades. Do you work them till they're dull and then replace them, or can they be resharpened?
You can try. I don't know that these can be resharpened. I haven't had to resharpen one yet. I can find that out. These are, they last a long time. They do dull, and not very quickly, but I still have my first one, and I can still cut with it, even though I use it with a saw blade spacer. I'm not totally positive about sharpening, so I don't want to give you the wrong answer. So it is a very good performing saw.
Technically, the ripped blade probably is not really a ripped set blade. It's probably just a very sharp blade.
It's a very, very sharp, fine cutting blade, and it is the manufacturer, why it was manufactured. It is a non-set flush cut saw, so there are other saws out there. And you can use other saws. This was made for the purpose of when you cut your stock, you don't have the full length of the teeth touching the wood, so you get less resistance. So you can maneuver the saw better because less of the teeth are contacting the wood.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about,
Yeah.
is wouldn't a straight bottom saw be easier to get a flat cut than a curved bottom saw?
I'd say it all depends on how straight you keep your cut. So I would say on the crosscut guide, no. And the reason for that, if you have a straight blade and you're making your crosscut and it's tilted, you have it tilted a little bit. On the opposite side, if you're not totally straight, that mistake is going to be deeper if it's a straight blade. But if you're good at keeping your saw blade as straight as you can, it may not matter. This one is going to be a little more forgiving because you still have your curve over here, so it's not going to go as deep if you're a little bit off. Does that make sense? Yeah.
When you set your popsicle stick, you set that towards the bottom part of the blade too, so that prevents you from going too deep.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Yeah, the thing with the crosscut guide, you don't have a saw guide. So if you're not totally straight, you're a little bit bent, and you're cutting this off on the other side. You may have a millimeter kerf that you've produced, which I mean is not real noticeable, and it's normal. But the straight blade, that kerf mark is going to be deeper. So, and y'all are welcome if you want to try the saw. But
kind of away from the joinery, that model he had made of his yacht.
Right.
Was that a miniature 3D model, or is that CAD? I couldn't tell from the screen.
Well, I would say it probably. Toya, he's watching this right now, so he's going to correct me later. But what I'm going to guess is that yes, it is a 3D model because he is big on 3D images. But I seem to remember that was a prototype image that somebody had made for him that he used when he built the yacht.
It was very like Wes Anderson-esque. I don't know, but and then when's he coming to Springfield?
When's Toya? He's coming to Springfield? Well, that's a good question. He's been here. He's visited Maine about 4 years ago. He visited Lee Nilsson. I don't want to get the name wrong. He's a fine woodworking contributor, Garrett Hake. Does that sound right? So Toya has a relation with Garrett Hake. He's a very talented man. So I'm fortunate, feel very fortunate to have got to learn under him. So
when you make the jig, what type of magnets do you recommend?
For
when you're setting up your own jig, when you're making your own.
Okay.
With the magnets, do you set them flush to the surface, or do you recess them?
Okay, with this guide, and I know you're talking about making your own, but on this particular guide, this is a 60 mil magnet. The thicker the better, because it's going to adhere to the saw blade better. This top and bottom has to be the same. On this, I'm not totally sure what you're asking, but I don't use a sheet down here.
So for the magnets that you have there in the wood.
Right.
Are you setting them deeper than the surface of the wood, or are
You're
they
talking about
even with the surface of the wood?
You're talking about the embedded magnets. Okay. I use a drill press, measured the depth of the magnet, and I use my drill press and drilled just a little about the same, but after I hammered it in, it was just below. So, but you do not want it to protrude. Otherwise, your cuts are going to be off. So it does need to be flush at least. It could be like this is cut. These screws are countersunk. They're below. They could be below. They would be fine as long as they held the blade in place. And these are really strong little magnets, so they should. But these are almost exactly flush. But if they do come out a little bit, your cuts are going to be off. So, yeah, I thought you were talking about the magnetic sheet. I'm sorry. So, yeah.
Any more questions for William? All right, William, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
You said you had a website. What's your website?
The website is called the Woodworking Minimalist, and it is through Shopify. The jigs, the commercial jigs and saw blades are on there. There are some really good tutorials. If you go to the product pages and scroll down at the bottom of the description, I've uploaded a lot of Toyo Hisa's YouTube tutorials that are on there, and those are very helpful. I've tried to put as much on there that he has made on the website. He also made one of a bridle joint and 3 or 4 other joints just the other day in view of the demo, and I think I'm going to work with Chris to get those added to the site. But those are brand new, and it covers the bridle joint and then I think 3 other joints. So, yeah.
Well, thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
It's not a lot here, but we always give a token of our appreciation.
Okay.
The only way you get one of these is to be a presenter here.
Nice.
So we usually take a picture, which we call the mug shot. So
okay.
Cal, get in front of the banner for me.
We need to go that way. Okay.
It's my first mug shot.
Yeah, thank you again for being here. All right.
My wife will get a kick out of that.
Thanks again,
I
William.
appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
So everybody, please come up and chat with
Yes.
William.
You're welcome.
Please help clean up, put the chairs away, be careful driving home, and have a great night. Thank you.
A special thank you to our guest today, to the Guild's Leadership Committee, and to all of our sponsors. For more information about the Guild, upcoming classes, and events, please visit our website kcwg.org. You can also find us on social media by searching for Kansas City Woodworkers Guild. And remember to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications.